I didn't do it. Please. You know, a cold in Utah means a different thing than a cold in Hey, David, you know, at the ball game.
Our goal will be about 3 hours.
How you doing? Good. It's good to know you're still coming to the meetings. Yeah, well, the good part is you're still alive, so that's you survived all the COVID. Well, you know, it's kind of, you sort of don't know, you know, year and a half. Yeah. Go on. I don't know about birthdays and second birthdays, so I didn't get to be I won't worry. Yeah, that is definitely. So, did you go back east? I went to Kansas. People there are super nice. COVID made me think, yeah. I've been there by myself. Oh, that'd be awful. We couldn't talk in the chambers. We were in a separate room. We have each coming in. It's like
All right, we're ready to get started. We started with a work meeting at 4 o'clock in the conference room, so we had our invocation and our pledge in there. So we're just going to get started. We have a couple of pre-agenda items. The first one is a presentation from Neil Smith with the Exchange Club.
Ballsy, first on task.
Yes.
Come on up here. I'm the club president for the St. George Exchange Club, and we have been doing things with the city for a number of years. And you know, the last big donation we made was to the All Abilities Park, where we donated $100,000 towards that park. And we wanted to follow that up today by giving a $10,000 donation to the Major Brent Taylor Foundation. You're the Golden Star family's memorial monument to the city. So if we could have the mayor come down.
Brian and I are going to come down and accept that gladly.
Now you can accept the big one, but we also have the small.
We'll take the small one too.
Give that one to Trevor in the back.
Shane, come on down here, Shane. We appreciate Shane Moore being a city representative, being on the committee. There you are. Notice. Come on, here. You give him the small check. as we take this picture, and he'll grab that sucker really fast. Now, do we even have this check right side up?
Yes, you do.
Okay, good.
We said the one check's for show, the other one's for go.
Yeah.
Very good.
Thank
You
you
bet.
so much.
We appreciate that. Appreciate everything the city does, and we appreciate looking forward to that monument. That's a great thing. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Always glad to help.
So that money, like you said, is going to the Gold Stars Family Memorial Monument. That monument's been ordered. We will be dedicating that monument on November 10th down in Town Square. We are this close to our goal because of people like the Exchange Club, the Chamber. We've had so many people donate. I gave Brian $10,000 earlier we had two $5,000 donors, and we have two more $5,000 donors. So we will be there. And our community has just stepped forward when they saw how incredible this monument's going to be.
But I will tell you, council, and for those who are in attendance, in 2005, the city hired an energetic, very talented landscape architect that I think changed the history of our city for the better and has left a lasting mark, and we are so much better for her, and that's Millie Cockrell. And Millie's here. So I think it's no secret that one of the many things that makes St. George great are our parks. And of course, before you can ever build a park, you need somebody who's got the right skill to design the park. Millie has performed that function for our city, like I said, since 2005. She's been involved in just think of every great park in the city. Just go down the list. I actually have it here. They prepared this for me. It would take forever to read all these. It's just little tiny writing and this enormous list of projects that Millie was involved in. I will point out, she did say that the project that she enjoyed the most was probably the pickleball courts in Little Valley. And everybody who's seen that knows that that's a great facility. Millie, we are so glad for everything you've done for us. We wish you well in retirement. You've become a dear friend to so many here at the city. Your work speaks for itself. Best of luck to you, and thank you for everything. We've got a little plaque up here. If you'll come up and join us for a picture real quick. And if there are any, friends and family who'd like to come in, Millie, for a picture, please have them come up.
I just have to add, I've worked with Millie for 15 years, and her contribution to making this city such an incredible place to live, it can't be overstated. She's been incredible, so we're going to miss her so much. And she's been a great friend, too, so I'm going to really miss her on a personal level.
Mayor, I just want to say about Millie, as you're coming back up, a few years ago when we opened the Bicycle Collective and were able to move into the space over on the boulevard, she just showed up, and I can't even imagine how many thousands of times she's done this, but she showed up on a Saturday on her own time, and the landscape looked terrible over there, and she just said, I can't look at this anymore, we got to clean this up. And she was out there with her own shovel and her own plants and just showed up on her own time and actually came several times and fixed it up. And I'm sure she's done that all over town, and I just really appreciate her so much.
Thank you, Millie. You will be missed. Don't be a stranger.
Absolutely not.
Perfect. All right, Adam, that's all we have for pre-agenda.
Okay, that takes us to the consent calendar. There are quite a few items on the consent calendar. If you would like to discuss any of these in detail, we'd be happy to pull those off. Otherwise, they've been found to meet all regulations of the city. Staff recommend approval as presented.
I make a motion to approve the consent calendar.
Second.
Motion by Brian, seconded by Bardell. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Item number 2 is a public hearing for a substantial amendment to the 2019 to 2023 consolidated plan. And Jen will give us a background on this.
So this substantial amendment is to add round 3 funding of COVID through our CDBG program. It's also outlining how we're going to spend that money. Quite a bit of it is going to an acquisition of an old hotel, as long as that all pans out, as well as many of our nonprofit partners who are struggling with the effects of COVID. And so it is a public hearing. During the public comment period, staff received no comments.
Thanks, Jenna. So being a public hearing, I will open the public hearing now for anybody who has come to comment on the 2019 annual action plan for the 2019 to 2023 consolidated plan for the 2019 annual action plan. Any comments? I will close the public hearing and come back to you, council. Is there, do we need, I can't even think or speak right now today. Action on this?
We do, yes.
Mayor, I'm excited about the opportunity that we have to help our homeless population with this money. It'll be a really big deal. So I'll make a motion that we recommend, a motion that we approve this substantial amendment to the 2019-2023 consolidated plan and amend the citizen participation plan.
And I'll second that.
Motion by Danielle, seconded by Greg. This doesn't take a roll call vote, does it, Paula? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, item 3 is a request for a public hearing and consideration or approval of a subdivision amendment for the Vistas and Entrada Phase 3 partial amendment lots 20 and 21. So basically, 20 and 21 were right here. They're merging the 2 lots into one big lot, and that means they'll have to vacate the public utility easement that extended between the 2 lots. So really, in essence, you're approving the subdivision amendment plus the vacation of that public utility easement.
Any questions for Wes?
Is there any issues with neighbors or anything there? Is
None
everybody
that I've
happy?
heard about. No.
I'll open the public hearing for anybody who has come to comment on the subdivision amendment for the Vistas at Entrada Phase 3. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and come back to you, council, for motion.
Mayor, I'll make a motion that we approve a subdivision amendment for the Vistas at Entrada Phase 3, partial amendment A, by merging the 2 lots together into one lot and to vacate the public utility easement located on the common lot line.
Second.
Motion by Vardell, seconded by Brian. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Item number 4 is a resolution to enter into an interlocal agreement with Washington County. This is for the 2021 Burn Justice Assistance Grant, the JAG grant program. Chief Whitehead has a background.
So this is a grant that we've been participating for over a decade, I believe now. I'm not quite sure the formula that they use, but it's federal money that they award to us each year for us to purchase different items that we may need in the police department. This year we're using these funds to help with our transition from our old body camera system to the new body cam, the Axons. And so we're hoping to be able to enter into this and have it approved.
Thank you, and we need those.
Certainly we do.
Any questions for the chief? If not,
I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion we approve a resolution entering into an interlocal agreement with Washington County for the 2021 Barnes Justice Assistant Grant.
Second.
Motion by Greg, seconded by Danielle. All in favor, starting with Bardell.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Items 5 through 14 are land use, so our planning and engineering staff are going to take these.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Item number 5 is to consider approval of an ordinance changing the zone from R110 residential single family 10,000 square foot minimum lot size to a PDR planned development residential on approximately 12.24 acres, generally located in northwest corner of Gap Canyon Parkway and DeVario Canyon Drive, known as the Relisante at DeVario, or PA 17 DeVario. So this one you've seen before. It was tabled, and you had a work session on this. Just to refresh your memory, this is the current zoning, R110, and the general plan calls for high-density residential. You'll also recall that this is part of the DeVario Master Plan, which caps the high-density residential at 15 units per acre. This particular proposal is at 15 units per acre, asking for 184 units on the site. Again, this is what was approved prior, and this is what is being proposed, the 9 buildings, and again, 184 units. They're meeting the code as far as the parking goes, as far as the landscaping, amenities, etc. So if you have any other questions, that's just a brief overview of what the application is. If you have any specific questions, I'm happy to answer those. Also, the applicant is here if you have any questions for them.
Dan, I was noticing as I was reading through this that in the narrative, it says, now I can't find it. There was a part where it just said 3-story buildings, but then I know there's 2-story and 3-story. So.
Yeah, it's a combination.
Okay.
They're about half and half. There's 5 of, I believe, the 3-story buildings, and 4 of the other.
Okay.
It may be the other way. Sorry, I don't have that right off, but.
Council, any questions for Dan or the applicant? I know this is, I don't know how many times we've seen this.
It's been a couple times.
Couple times.
Yeah. Mayor, if I could just ask a quick question of staff. So one of the things the developers represented in this proposal is to do some specific grading to minimize the impact of the height of the buildings. What mechanism do we have in place? And it might be a better question for Wes. What mechanism do we have in place to make sure that that plan is followed and as per the commitments made by the developer?
Well, I would look to Wes to answer that question. It appears he's disappeared, though.
Or John.
We can check, when we're looking at the construction drawings, we can check the finished grade on what the finished grade is now. We can ask them to provide that elevation and then what the finished grade elevation will be to make sure that they are trying to minimize the impact for the height with the elevation.
And other than that, for the record, this proposal falls within the approved master plan?
Correct. It is the density and area as approved per the master plan.
Council, any questions?
I do. I want to ask this question. Just, I think we know the answer, but I do want to ask it one more time. Is it within the city's, with the current master plan in place, is it within the city's ability to change where the density goes?
No, we don't believe it is. We believe that the existing agreement, we're obligated to proceed according to that agreement. The developer could choose to move those densities around, but the city could not unilaterally make that decision. It would have to be a decision that the developer would agree with. To this point, they have told us very directly that they do not intend to move the density. I guess we can ask them one more time for the developer's representative, is there any willingness to consider moving the density to a different planning area?
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Mark Teepin with DeVario. So we've, kind of visited this issue more than once with the commission, council as well. We worked through the development agreement years ago, as we've told you before, and we like the master plan as it's been agreed to. There's really no reason to change it in our mind.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Council, with that, I will come back to you for action.
Mayor, I was just looking through the minutes from our June 24th meeting, and I thought maybe what our city manager said and our city attorney said there is worth repeating. Adam did explain at that meeting that the city is constrained, which he just explained. We have this legally binding development agreement that's been in place for years. He noted in that meeting that PA 17 has always been identified as a high-density pod since before the existing homes were built. Per the agreement, the developer has the right to bring forth an application showing high density as it complies with the plan. And Mr. Guzman, our city attorney, also advised there's a development agreement in place. The developer has come in according to the plan and development agreement that was put in place prior to any development in the area. And then he also noted that putting all the high density in one area makes the area not as livable for those living in apartments. It's better to have them integrated into neighborhoods. So I just thought it would be good to kind of review that because we have talked about this at length, and I know a lot of the residents that are now newly there feel frustrated, but this has been a long time coming. So yeah, with that being said, I will make a motion that we approve an ordinance changing the zone from R110 to PDR on approximately 12.24 acres generally located on the northwest corner of Gap Canyon Parkway and DeVario Canyon Drive, known as Rilasante at DeVario.
Second.
Motion by Danielle, seconded by Brian. All in favor, starting with Danielle.
Aye.
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 Aye. No.
Motion carries.
Is there a chance to make a comment on that?
Mm-hmm.
I just want to make a comment on this. Please, the comments have been heard. This is something where I had a conversation with our city attorney. And when I was elected, I took an oath, and the oath said that I will stand to, basically in part of that, what I was saying is I will stand to uphold the laws of the city. And so in this one, I feel like I was bound. I feel like I'm bound to what the agreement is, and that's why I voted how I did. I just want to make that's what I did. I do understand where the community is coming from. It is heard, and that's why I made that vote. I just want to make that clear.
Second.
Yeah. Thank you. And this is where, there's times that prior councils bind future council's hands, and this was one of those times. So, next item.
Better get my glasses on. Oh, let me introduce myself first. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Carol Davidson. I'm a newer planner here. However, I used to be here a while ago, so I am back.
And we're happy to have you back.
Thank you.
Welcome back.
Thank you. So, yeah. And I need my glasses. So this is item number 6, consider approval of an ordinance changing the zone from C3 general commercial to PDC planned development commercial on approximately 2.35 acres located at the northwest corner of 2860 East, 850 North, and I will go over the staff report. Okay, so just a general location. We've got just south of Cal Ranch and the little west of the contact climbing. General plan, future land use, we do have this as commercial, so this does fit. Right now it's C3, completely surrounded by C3, and they want to just go to PDC, which is keeping it the same commercial, just a little bit different possibilities with uses. So Humane Society would like to, obviously I think most of you know what Humane Society does, but this is going to be a place where you can turn in pets, where you can adopt pets. They want to do spay and neutering, and they also want to do vaccinations as well as educational opportunities for the public. and a few other things. This PDC is a little bit different in that they do not have any site plan. They don't have any elevations. This is just to approve the use list only. And up on the screen is the use list that they would like to adopt. The first one is animal hospital. Second one, animal shelter. The third one is office, and then retail use. That is the extent of the use list that they would like to have adopted with this PDC if it is approved. This did go before the Planning Commission back in June 22nd. There was a 4-2 vote recommending approval of the zone change with the condition that an internal courtyard be provided to reduce sound when the site plan comes forward. So basically when this comes back, when they're ready to actually build, they want to make sure that any outdoor situation, it's inside of a courtyard to reduce the sound. I do have a possible motion up here for you if you'd like to follow it. I do want to just remind you that this is not only for the zone change, but the use list as well. And if you have any questions for me or the applicant, we do have representation here.
Thanks, Carol. Council, do you have any questions for Carol?
Well, I can see that Carol's taking the presentation to the next level. It's looking really
I had to add in little animal stuff. You know, I was going to pick my PowerPoint, and then this dog appeared, and I was like, oh, well, I'm going to choose that one. That fits perfectly. So, yeah.
You know, having the Humane Society here in St. George and getting this built is going to help alleviate a lot of pressure off of our shelter, which is a win-win.
It will, and that was discussed in the Planning Commission, and definitely was discussed this location. Not everyone likes this location. However, they do a lot better when they're in a very visible location, which this is high traffic. So that's why they picked this. Go ahead.
Could we talk about that? I'd love to just hear a little bit more about how this is going to affect our animal shelter. I'd love to see kind of is there any numbers or anything kind of, or anything like that? But maybe the applicant or maybe not. I think it'd be fun to hear, but.
Okay.
If you'll just state your name for the record so our city recorder can get it.
Yes, absolutely. I'm Katie Gray. I'm the medical director of the current spay, neuter, and vaccination clinic. I think I was here maybe a month ago. And so really we talked a lot.
Pull that mic down.
Sorry.
I wonder
I
what
have to pull it to my height. So we talked a lot with the Planning Commission about why this location in particular was important. And the main reason is because we are going to be doing a service for the community and for clients in the community, both through adoptions and for spay neuter. And so we need to have accessibility to the community. Another big part of what we do is have volunteer positions as well. And so in order to be able to have volunteers to support our organization, it also has to be accessible. I've been in the nonprofit world for 8+ years now, and I know that our clients in particular may have constraints, financial constraints. Ability to get to a certain location is really, really important. Not everybody has the gas money to drive 45 minutes out of town. People bring their pets on the bus system. So having a location where we can be accessible by bus is also really, really important in order to make the most impact for the community that we need to serve. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think that's good.
Okay.
Thanks. That's what kind of what I wanted to hear.
I'm happy to answer anything else as well.
Were there other locations that were considered and then discounted because of all the reasons you just said this was a great fit?
Yeah, we looked at a couple other locations. The first location that we looked at actually was a good location for accessibility, but the neighbors were not super excited to have us there, mostly just because of misconceptions. We're going to be building a modern shelter. You know, even with the courtyard stipulation, even without that, we're soundproofing everything. Nobody's going to hear anything. We're not having kennels where dogs are going to be outside, you know, 24 hours a day. Everything is going to be inside. We're only utilizing the outside in order to walk dogs to provide exercise. Nothing is going to be housed outside. There's no smells involved with anything. Everything is contained inside. And frankly, if we're doing a good job, as we should be at sheltering, we're not going to have the stressed out animals that are barking all the time. You know, as far as me being a veterinarian and trying to reduce stress in our population, that would just be, you know, a failure on our part to, you know, make everybody as comfortable and happy as possible who's staying with us. So that was the main thing with the other location that we had. This seems like a really good location for both the community and for us. We've talked to all the neighbors. The climbing gym is super excited to have us there. Cal Ranch is super excited to have us there. You know, we can definitely help each other. They sell, you know, dog food and leashes and supplies and things like that. So I think as far as that goes, we're excited, and I think the neighbors are also excited to have us. So.
Was the location the primary concern as it was presented to the Planning Commission?
I think so. From what I kind of gathered from their discussion, it was, is this the best location, you know, potentially possible ever, or is, you know, perfect sometimes, you know, not, you know, the enemy of good and that kind of thing. So I think overall, that's why they voted to go ahead and pass it, because it did seem like a good location.
There's no question that the service that you provide is much needed in our city and will really be a benefit to the citizens. So thank you for, as long as this path has taken you to get to where you're at tonight.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you, Dr. Gray. We really are happy to have you here.
Well, we're happy to be here. So.
And you've been patient, so thanks.
Yes.
Council, if there's no more questions, I'm ready for a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve an ordinance changing the zone from C3 to PDC on approximately 2.35 acres located at the northwest corner of 2860 East and 850 North.
Second.
With
the Planning Commission's recommendations.
Yes.
Of course.
Motion by Danielle, seconded by Jimmy. All in favor, starting with Bardell.
Aye.
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 Motion carries.
Okay, so item 7 is to consider approval of an ordinance changing the zone from A20 agricultural 20-acre minimum lot size to RE20 residential estate minimum 20,000 square foot lot size on a 0.489 acre piece, and R110 single family residential minimum lot size 10,000 square feet to A1 agricultural 1 acre minimum lot size on a 0.285 acre piece located approximately at 3210 East Canal Road. So here we have an aerial view of the area. You have Canal Road here, and you have the two proposed pieces. This piece here, what they're wanting to do is add it to this area around here, which was recently rezoned to agricultural 1. And then you have this piece here, which has a house on it currently, and add it to this area here, which is the Aberley Farms preliminary plat, which was recently rezoned. Here, the general plan designates the area as LDR, low density residential. And here we have the zoning map. As you can see, the map isn't updated yet. It doesn't currently show what was recently rezoned. And then here's just an overall picture of the site zoomed in a little bit so you can see the two separate pieces. With that, I can answer any questions you might have, and I believe the applicant's here to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions for Dan or the applicant?
This area has some irregular streets. I guess that's one way to put it. Will any of that be resolved? We're going to tee up some of those problem areas. I realize we're just doing the zoning, but
You know, I'm not totally sure exactly what they're doing in this area. I know there's a trail that they're wanting to put in, and like you said, change some areas. Maybe
Will they
less
will they
skin.
maintain the opportunity for runners to get chased by scary birds out there? There's a lot of
Scary
peacocks.
birds.
Peacocks are violent. Just thought. So I'm hoping they maintain that for the area.
So in answer to your question is, darn it, which way do I go now? We're working with them. They have a layout now that brings the road through like this to meet a city standard, come in at a 90-degree angle here, come around there, and come through there. So we're working with them right now to get that realigned. You'll notice as the road comes through here, it does fully go on their property, and so and then the city's trying to acquire property here for a regional detention basin. So yes, the road will get built. It'll be realigned with this subdivision. We're just working with them as far as, you know, cost participation and so forth, because they're giving up land for the detention basin, the road's on them, and so forth. So we're kind of going through that right now, trying to get that resolved.
Thanks, Wes. Council, any questions?
I'd make a motion
Perfect.
that we approve an ordinance changing the zone from agricultural 20-acre minimum lot size to residential estates minimum 20,000 square foot lot sizes on .489 acres and R110 single-family residential minimum 10,000 square foot lot sizes to A1 agricultural 1-acre minimum lot sizes on .285 acres located approximately at 3210 East Canal Road, known as Aberley Farm.
Second.
Did you second it? Okay. Motion by Vardell, seconded by Brian. All in favor, starting with Danielle.
Aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Motion carries.
Mayor Randall, if I could, just one more quick comment on that previous item that was just approved. We'd like to just mention this to the developer. You should be aware by now that we're closely looking at our water resources and future development. We'd like to encourage you when you come through for the platting process that you be thinking at least about some ideas about the type of development that's going to take place and how that development can be sensitive to and conserve water resources. So just something to think about. We'd just like to have that on your mind as you move forward.
Okay, moving on to item number 8, which is to consider approval of a conditional use permit for the CP Marketplace to build a building larger than 20,000 square feet on approximately 3.57 acres, located at 1301 West Sunset Boulevard. All right, so we've got our general location here. I do have down that it's 4.87 acres, and that's because Carpets Plus, which is the CP and CP Marketplace, they own this lot right here, and you combine that one with this new section, and it's 4.87. So here on Sunset is the location. Zoning is C3, and general plan, we've got commercial with some open space mixed in there. Residential is to the south. Here is what they're proposing. This is a 3D image. We've got, this is where and this is looking at it from Sunset, kind of looking south. This is their existing showroom. They are going to redo the exterior of this showroom so it matches these two new buildings that they're going to put in. So they extend the showroom down here, and then in front they're going to put in a 18,000 square foot retail building with different shops available. There's a couple outdoor spaces as well. This is the site plan. We've got just kind of the overhead, same thing I just showed you with the parking lot wrapping around and then coming down into here. I have several elevation pictures. They're kind of hard to see with all of their diagrams written or all their numbers written on them, but it's pretty much looking like that 3D elevation. this east. Moving on to landscaping, they will be required to landscape. This is a concept landscape plan. They will be required, I just want to make sure I note this, that they'll be required to do the buffer down here and then also down here. That's where they are lined up against residential. This is a photometric lighting plan. It will be required to meet our regulations on that. Here's another 3D rendering again of the overall, what the plan's going to look like. That extra parking is over here and the residential is back here. There is a materials board up here if you care to look at the samples. We've got some earth tones on there, lots of earth tones on their product. So as far as parking, this does meet the parking regulations. They are required to have 146. They're providing 173. As far as its compatibility with the area, it does fit perfectly along Sunset. Of course, we do have residential behind them, so the only part we want to be sensitive and make sure that we get that regulated is the buffer, and make sure that that buffer is in between the residential property. As far as traffic goes, they will have one new entrance here on Sunsets. Here's their existing entrance that's shared. Here's the new one. It does line up with a private drive to the north, so we did work that out with the applicants on that. There is a little tiny bit of floodplain in here, which shouldn't affect too much. There will be no buildings. This is just the parking lot area. They'll just be required to do the floodplain development permit and all of that fun stuff. So conditional permit standards, here they are. They were in your packet. Just the basic conditional use permit here. The Planning Commission did recommend approval of this. They did have some conditions, and I'll just go over those conditions really quick. They recommended approval with the condition that number one, a quick claim deed is created to put all of the there's three, actually four, possibly four, but there's definitely three pieces, and we just want them to combine that into one. Otherwise, we've got half of a building on one lot, and then we've got a parking lot all by itself, and just to make it cohesive. So put that into one, and then number two was the lighting, just to make sure it meets zoning requirements. 3 solid ways to make sure that there's a screen with a solid fence on there, and then 4, definitely for the buffer, make sure they meet the regulations for the buffer requirement for the neighborhood to the south. Here's a possible motion for you. There is representation from the applicant, and if you have any questions, I can answer those, or you can talk to the applicant.
Council, any questions for Carol or the applicant? I think this will be a nice addition to that vacant lot that's been there for forever.
I make a motion to approve the conditional use permit for CP Marketplace to build a building larger than 20,000 square feet on approximately 3.57 acres located at 1301 West Sunset Boulevard.
Second.
Motion by Brian, seconded by Vardell. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries.
You know what, Mayor, now that we passed that, I mean, I assume that that included the Planning Commission's recommendations.
Yes, we will add that.
Okay. Item number 9 is to consider approval of an ordinance amending Titles 10-7-6 and 10-7F-1 of the City Code as it pertains to minimum lot sizes in planned development residential zones. Should be fairly straightforward, hopefully. Looking at specifically tiny homes, we have a minimum size for a home based on the size of the lot that you are located on. So you can see number an F1, you have on a 7,000 square foot or less, you have to have at least 900 square feet dwelling area, and then on a lot 7,000 square feet or greater, you have to have at least 1,000 square feet. So This proposed language, we're proposing to add item number 3, which says a smaller floor area than those listed above may be requested as part of a residential plan development zoning request or a PD pursuant to Chapter 10.7F of this title. And then we would also propose changing the table to add that as a permitted use in the PDR, that they're smaller floor size depending on the size, depending on them being in a PDR, if that makes sense. So it just gives you the option, gives you a little more flexibility in a PD to allow a smaller lot or a smaller floor size. Specifically, again, this came up because of the interest in tiny homes. So that's the proposal. Planning Commission heard this and they recommended unanimously to forward a positive recommendation to you.
Questions for Dan?
What's the typical size of a tiny home that people are proposing?
We see tiny homes can range anywhere from, 5, maybe 500 on the low end, on up.
I was going to bring that up because I think it's kind of funny that we're calling them tiny homes. We probably should use different wording because, I think tiny homes people often think of. My son built a tiny home and it was 280 square feet, right? And it was on wheels. But most of these, I lived in a house just right north of the cemetery where the 605 place is, and it was a great little house. I had 2 kids there and it was 600 square feet. So, I think in a weird way, this ordinance, I'm glad we're doing this because it's kind of boxed us into, there's this certain size that's acceptable, and really a lot of those older homes are much, they're smaller than 900 square feet, and they're great little residences, so.
Well, I grew up with, there were 4 of us and my parents in a 1,200 square foot home.
Yeah.
So
it works.
It works. We had to get along.
I lived in one of about that square footage in Afghanistan, and I don't know why you'd want to live in something that small.
These might be nicer than those ones were, Brian. These might have electricity and running water.
So, do we have any examples or things that could be, before we change code, in my opinion, I'd like to see examples of successes in communities like ours. I do have concerns with tiny homes, especially just putting sure, it's still a PDR, but just putting it out there where you can do whatever, just bring it in and we'll look at it and maybe, I don't know. I'd like to see examples before I change the code. Do we have anything like that we can demonstrate?
I don't have anything for you tonight, but we can take a look at what has been built in the area. There are a few examples in the area. We'd have to bring that back to you, though.
It sounds like this still requires requests, though, right?
Yeah, it certainly doesn't bind you in any way. You can still say no to the PD if you're not comfortable with it, or you don't like the design, or whatever your findings are.
Right.
Should there be, in addition to the question that Councilmember MacArthur is making or asking, should there be some additional standards that would perhaps need to be in a community where the homes are smaller like this? I mean, do you need to require, for example, professional management for the neighborhood? Do you need to, what types of other considerations might need to be made?
Storage considerations, right? So it's not.
Yeah,
like that.
We could certainly look at some of those, and that might be a good one. Storage might be another good one. Again, we were looking at the flexibility of it, it being in a PD, but we could certainly come up with some standards that we would put in the permitted standards section.
And I think I'd be more for something like that, just because instead of having people come and throwing stuff at the wall, right, and then we got to deny it or whatever, if it doesn't work or approve, I'd rather have there be standards so they know what to come in with. Because I think if we open it up to tiny homes to whatever it is, then, I'm going to come in with 100 square footers if it works and I can get people to buy them or something like that. I'm just throwing that out there as a facetious example, but I'd like to see something more and examples of it working.
Isn't 100 square foot a trailer, like a RV?
Yeah.
A camper?
Greg went really extreme on his example.
Yes,
that was that's why I said it was a facetious example. That was just facetious.
Those are on wheels.
As I was saying it, I realized I should have pulled it back. But
or Danielle's walk-in closet.
Very funny.
Is this request staff-driven? I mean, is it as a result of having questions asked of the city?
Yes, yeah, we have. In fact, I think we have an application in for some tiny homes. If you'll recall, the ones up in, they call it Grandview in Green Valley, that the PD that was approved, I guess, beginning of the year maybe.
Is that where the
but they're-
Rogers
Yes.
gravel pit used to be?
Right,
Okay,
right.
yeah.
I'll also add on this one, sorry, my mic's so loud. This item of the minimum square footage has become kind of a hot button issue at the legislature. My prediction is eventually the state's going to take away from cities their ability to impose any kind of a minimum square footage in the name of affordable housing, and that may be where we're headed anyways with the state. I don't know, but there have been bills that have been run and filed in the past on this very issue. So I do think it's probably something we should be proactively looking at, or at least anticipating in some way.
Yeah, and I respect Council Greg.
Council Greg.
Councilman MacArthur's statements. I think I understand the direction he's heading, and then my only caveat to that though is that we don't then create more binding, that it becomes we can't make affordable space because we've then attached a bunch of new rules. But I also understand what he's concerned about, so I think there's probably a happy medium there.
So does anyone want to make a motion and where this is a planned development?
I can make a motion on it.
Go for it.
Make a motion that we table this until we have further. I'd like to make a motion that we table with direction to bring back examples of things that work, and adding additional examples of adding additional language that will make it so, if we do tiny homes, that these developments remain great spaces over the next 50 years.
50 years.
Maybe you need to pull the years out, but over time.
And they're greater than 100 square feet.
Got some exaggeration problems tonight. I'm going to pull back a little.
Second.
Motion by Greg, seconded by Jimmy to table this item. All in favor, starting with Bardell.
Aye.
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 Do we need a date for when we want it brought back?
No, I don't think, well, technically with the table, I think we do need to do.
I think we can have something ready by the next city council meeting. I think we're going to focus probably on outdoor space and storage and garages, I think.
Parking, probably.
And parking. So I think those are the three things we'll go back and look at.
Okay.
Thanks, John.
Thanks.
Thanks, John.
Okay, the next item is a request to approve a preliminary plat for a 20-lot residential subdivision called Lot Entrada. Site is located approximately at the intersection of Magatsu Drive and Snow Canyon Parkway within the Entrada development. Property is 8.43 acres for a density of 2.37 dwelling units an acre. Zone is PDR. Again, it's part of the Entrada development. Applicant is Civil Science. So here's the property right here. Here's Snow Canyon Parkway. And then again, there's Magatsu Drive on the easterly side of the road. Here's your PDR zoning showing that. And this is your subdivision. So I kind of wondered why this piece had never developed until they brought this in, and now I know why it's never developed. So let me just go. So there's an existing sewer line that comes right there. It's a regional sewer line that comes right there. Their property line is about 2 feet off of that regional sewer line. And then there is a 48-inch, a 48-inch, a 48-inch, and a 48-inch storm drain line that discharge water onto this piece. So, yeah, they brought that in. I'm like, oh, yeah, now I get it. Yeah, that's why it never developed. I always wondered because I live out in that area. Anyway, we've met with the developer and looked at the sewer. So the wastewater department, they have in their budget this year to do upsize that sewer line right there. Based on their master plan, the sewer line is supposed to be an 18-inch as it comes through this area here. So right now they have budget to upsize that to 18 inches there. This was a little further down the road, but we've met with the developer, and we're going to, the condition is we're going to work out a cost participation. Instead of waiting a few years to upsize that line, we're going to try to do it now. The proposal is to do it now with this development and basically take the sewer line, because if you look right here, let's see, it shows it better. You can see right here, there's the sewer line right there. And so the proposal is to upgrade that sewer line with this development, but relocate it and push it more on the golf course property and get an easement from them at that time for the sewer line being on the golf course property. The owner feels like the Entrada Golf Course people would be okay with that relocation and so forth, so that would be the condition. The other condition is we're going to work with the developer and do a cost participation to help pipe those 48-inch storm drain lines through their site, to get it through their site and to where it can drain without impacting that property any further. So those are two things that would be conditions, is cost participations with the sewer and the storm drain. They are requesting a gate right here. We've kind of frowned on doing gates for a long time. This goes back to the previous council. However, they've made the argument that this is part of the Entrada development. It is part of their master plan. They should be allowed a gate. So they are requesting a gate here. And then they are requesting elimination of the sidewalk on one side of the road. They feel like this is kind of just a little 28 lot subdivision. It's kind of enclosed. It has no access to the general public, and it's just to them. And they're trying to achieve a fill with their development, and so they are requesting to eliminate the sidewalk on one side of the road.
So if they don't work with us on the city easement, then they don't get flushing toilets, right?
That's the problem is the city does not have a sewer easement on that sewer. It was installed, years ago. I don't know how long it was installed. It was installed a long time ago, and it was done with development. And somehow the easement never was acquired. It's the same with the storm drain lines coming onto the property. And so that's why we're working with the developer to do a cost share to help get that off of the property, with the city participating both with the storm drain and the sewer.
Any more questions for Wes? Obviously, there's a reason this wasn't developed.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of bad pieces, but this one's a tough one.
Is the developer's representative
They
here?
are here, and so if you'd like to talk to them, they'd be happy to.
Yeah, same comment on water as before, on water conservation. I will point out, I think Entrada has done a really good job with their residential development in utilizing xeriscape type landscaping. We would just hope to see that continue and not to see large amounts of sod. I'll just save myself the comment for the remaining preliminary plats for those who are in the room. We are working on standards right now for future development as far as conservation measures that would apply to new development. They're not quite ready. Obviously, we can't ask you to abide by a standard that you haven't seen and that has not been formally approved. But we hope that as partners in the growth and development of our community, that we can all approach this proactively and aggressively pursue xeriscaping as outdoor landscaping, anything we can do to minimize the use of our culinary and secondary water. Thank you.
Council, ready for a motion if you are with Wes. Do you want to quickly mention what needs to be mentioned in the motion again?
The conditions would be working with
Cost
staff for cost participation on the relocation of the existing sewer line and the storm drain lines, and if you're okay, elimination of the sidewalk and allowing it to be a gated part of Entrada.
Wes, what do you think of the elimination of the sidewalk? You okay with that? I mean, what are your thoughts?
So I'll give you an example. So years ago, Stonecliff came in. This is after they had done a number of phases. They requested elimination of the sidewalk. Their argument was that they would widen the road. The council bought off on it and said, yeah, okay. And so they haven't really put any sidewalks in since then because they requested that. It is a private development. It doesn't have anybody going through here as far as the public. And it is, they're considering it more, it'll be not vacation rentals, but second homes. So the argument was, you're not going to have people in here all year round. They'll come and go as they're vacationing here in St. George. So they just felt like this just isn't a normal standard subdivision, that it's really just kind of a second home subdivision, for lack of a better term. That's why they made that argument.
I'm ready for a motion.
Okay, I'll make a motion. Make a motion that we approve the preliminary plat for La Entrada, a 20-lot residential subdivision located approximately at the intersection of Magatsu Drive and Snow Canyon Parkway, with the following considerations or conditions: that we're waiving the requirement for the sidewalk, that we're allowing it to be a gated development, that there will be golf course approval for the easement, and that there be cost participation. Was it for the sewer and the storm drains?
Yep.
That's my motion.
I'll second that motion.
Motion by Vardell, seconded by Greg. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, the next item is a request to approve a preliminary plat for a 15-lot residential subdivision called Riverbend Estates at Sunbrook. Site is located on the north side of the intersection of Lost Creek Drive and Box Canyon Drive in the Sunbrook development. Your density is 2.04 dwelling units an acre. Again, it's PDR. It's part of Sunbrook. The applicant is Rosenberg Associates, Jared Bates. So here it is, right here. This is Vineyard Ridge. This is the border of St. George and Santa Clara right there. So you see it's kind of on that northwesterly portion of Sunbrook. Again, there's your zoning. And here's your subdivision. So I'll go with these really quickly. They have there's a hillside here, so they're proposing to put these little detention basins here to collect the water from off of the hillside. This area they're going to form an HOA that would be responsible to own and maintain that hillside and these detention basins, as well as the pipes coming not from the detention basins here. So they'll have to grant easements to the association through those private properties for those storm drain lines. Let's see. They are relocating an existing irrigation line through here. It's owned by the St. George Santa Clara, so they'll have to work with them, the irrigation company, and grant an easement on that. They are providing these 20-foot trail access easements to the river for access if the river needs to be maintained or if there's a fire in the river. These, again, they're proposing to make property owned and maintained by the HOA. They'll make a drivable surface of road base so that you can get access to the river there. They are within the erosion hazard boundary line. There it is right there. They'll be required to provide an erosion hazard study that indicates the mitigation. There has some erosion protection has been installed, but they'll have to do that study and show either that the mitigation that's been provided meets the city standard or what needs to be added to it to meet the city standard. They are not within the floodplain and the floodway. Floodway line is the same line, and that's it right there. So it comes close, but it doesn't encroach onto the lots. And there is an existing storm drain line. It's a public line that runs right through there. They're proposing to grant a 25-foot easement here. However, I've told them to look at it and see if they can get it up to here and go out this way. They said they would do that because the preference would be to come out through that trail and access easement. That way you're not encumbering either of those lots with a public utility easement to maintain that. And then the easement up here would then be dictated by the irrigation company as far as what they need on that irrigation line relocation. Other than that, that's all I got. Sorry. Yeah, I know. Maybe I don't know. Yeah.
That's it?
It's a tough piece too.
Wes, did you say there is going to be some armoring on that north end?
They've done some years ago, and the engineer can tell you better. He told me that the developer just went in and armored it years ago. However, we'll go through that erosion hazard study, and then they'll look at what's been provided, see if that what has been meets the city standard, and if not, they'll have to add to it based on the erosion hazard study.
How steep is that hill they're building on there? Like,
Right here. This is kind of a flat area, and you can see it. And then with the contours, once you build the road, it goes up to a hill right there. So it is fairly steep there. That's why they propose those detention basins, is because of that hill there and the steepness of it, trying to collect that water off of it.
But it's outside of the hillside.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure. Otherwise, I think it went Sunbrook. Some of Sunbrook is included in there, but they did this years ago. They went through the hillside board, and so all of it's been addressed. I can't remember if this piece is exactly. I don't think it is, but if it is, it's already been addressed through a previous hillside review board. Gosh, in the 90s or earlier. You guys know when Sunbrook started. I don't.
So do you have, in your part of the presentation, where this parcel is in relationship to the rest of the Sunbrook development?
So if you look, I don't really, this is all I have. It's really on the very, very northwest end of Sunbrook. Again, that's the boundary line between St. George and Santa Clara. So there was a parade home maybe a year or two ago. You came all the way down this road, as I recall, turned and came right up in here, and there was a parade home. And the only reason I remember that is I was totally lost. I couldn't figure out where I was in the city. But so that's the only reason I remember it. But so it's like on that outer edge of the Sunbrook development.
Any questions, council? Any more questions, or you want to take a stab at this motion?
Yeah, maybe I said too much.
Make a motion to approve the plat for Riverbend Estates at Sunbrook, a 15-lot residential subdivision located on the north side of the intersection of Lost Creek Drive and Box Canyon Drive in the Sunbrook development.
Do we need conditions?
No, you really don't, because I was just telling you the ownership, because a lot of it's left open and who would own and maintain it and the relocation. And the erosion hazard study is required by ordinance, so you really don't have to put any conditions. All of it's required by ordinance.
Perfect.
Second.
Motion by Brian, seconded by Jimmy. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, the next item is request approval of preliminary plat for a 2-lot commercial subdivision called Sparkle and Shine. The site is located at the northwest corner of the intersection of Stardust Drive and Dixie Drive. The zoning is PD commercial. Applicant is LR Pope. Representative is Reed Pope. So here it is right here. Here's Dixie Drive, 1600 South. Here is the cemetery. So basically, there's your zoning PDC. It's part of that overall PD development there. And basically, they're subdividing it into 2 lots. Yeah, I've had a lot of questions on the strange layout of that lot. And basically, they've created that lot because it's not usable for what they are hoping to get here. And their intent is to sell that to the city to allow the city to expand the cemetery. And so right now, that's the intent. If it doesn't go through, they feel like they still can develop it. But if the city doesn't purchase it, then they'll have to provide cross access through Lot 1 to get to Lot 2, as both the access points are on Lot 1. So if the city doesn't purchase it and it goes through and somebody else does, we'll have to get that easement on the plat for cross access.
What's the zoning on this again?
PDC, it's part of that K-Traveler plan development.
Do we have, so it's a PDC, so that they need to get approvals on what they put on that corner?
Yeah, what they put.
Correct?
All they're doing is trying to subdivide the property now. Yeah.
Okay.
You're correct.
Wes, is that second lot big enough to put any of the businesses that are listed as approved uses on that lot?
They said yes. I haven't actually laid it out myself, but they indicated that they could put something here with parking here and something here with parking here. That's what they've indicated. Again, I haven't laid it out.
Something here and something there.
Yeah, some use. They said there are uses within that PDC. I'm sorry.
Tiny.
There are uses that they could put there.
It's a very permanent home, hopefully.
Yes.
We're trying to negotiate the purchase of that for cemetery expansion.
Was it thought to be like a buffer between whatever is going to go there in the cemetery? Has that been a thought? Is that why?
No, that would likely be plots for the cemetery.
Would it?
Yeah, and we'd handle the buffer, with screening, landscaping.
So you're not laying next to Dixie Drive.
Yeah.
For all eternity.
This is the piece that we had. We had a denial on this about a year ago, right? Because we had a type of use that maybe we didn't think that was appropriate close to our cemetery. So I have concerns on that. I don't know if I have a problem changing the lot, but the lots but I want to make sure that we get the right usage on there.
They still have the same planned uses, don't they?
They still what?
Have the same planned uses once this is done, or the car wash idea went away, or the Maverick?
The car wash idea went away, yeah.
But the convenience store is still contemplated.
Yeah, they're still contemplating that. And that's why you see that configuration like that, is it lays out well if they can get a convenience store in there. But
I think I could just speak to that now. I'd have concerns with that, especially if we are moving our cemetery out right to that. Then I'd probably want to address that now, saying there are concerns with that.
You don't want to go into the Maverick and then go to the cemetery?
Get some snacks, head on in.
The car wash was the use that was causing the concern the first time around, or at least most of the concerns. But to your point, certainly with our cemetery staff, we could look at the layout and say, we could decide how far really do we want to be away from a convenience store, and what type of wall would we want to put up to provide the screening, and other ways to mitigate that. So I probably gave the wrong impression about pushing the cemetery up to there. Obviously, the design will dictate.
They're not interested in selling all of it for the
I
cemetery.
think what my concern would be is a convenience store being there, is having people going in and buying beverages and stuff, and then bringing it over onto it kind of moving over towards the cemetery, and we're getting a lot of litter and trash that we can't control sometimes.
I think the discussion I recall that we had about this last time was we didn't know what was going to go in the back. It was like, this is for future expansion, so that's what everybody's like, well, what is this? But along with that, the discussion was, well, does the C-store really fit here because of the location? So it was a dual conversation. We didn't know what was going there because it was future expansion, but at the same time, it was also, the C-store was a concern as well.
Yeah, because I think the discussion revolved around this is a quiet area, the neighbors, and that whole street, it kind of fits that way, but this will be a late into the night type of a business, and I don't know. It's a tough one.
it is a tough
We want to be respectful to the cemetery property, but
So Wes, when the uses are considered, that would be part of the PD. I assume this is going to come back as a PD.
Yeah.
It's already PD.
It's already a PD. It's just like last time, wasn't it? They were trying to amend the use list.
Isn't a C-store in that use list?
Yeah, a convenience store was listed as a permitted use. The car wash was only manual, but they wanted automated on the car wash, and they showed an outline of a future car wash, which wasn't a permitted use. But the convenience store is listed as a use in this PD, and it is already zoned PD.
Does that mean they can do fuel there as well?
I think so.
I think so. I think that's included in the convenience store definition, isn't it?
We'd have to look at that a little closer.
Is the applicant here?
Council? You're as quiet as the cemetery.
It's kind of a,
And so the width of that is about 70 feet. So if you take your setback, you have about a 40-foot building envelope that you could fit on this side, on the most narrow point.
And obviously, they would have to build a large wall between them and if we were to purchase that property for
I think
cemetery
that's something we'd have to negotiate in the contract because right now this is the residential, and so this would be PD against PD.
Say that again. What did you say there?
Right now, this piece of property is planned development, and this is planned development. The buffer is required when you're adjacent to residential.
So you're saying we
buffer's
could,
not required.
yeah, there would be no buffer there.
Unless
That
during
makes
the
it worse.
unless during the PD approval, when we review it, we determine that they need additional landscape on that side as part of the site plan approval.
So that's the good thing about PD is we can mitigate the lighting, we can, talk through all of that. So, I mean, if I'm understanding this correctly, going ahead and approving this plat is, we would just be holding things up at this point because we don't really have a reason not to approve it at this point. It would be further on in the PD application where we could actually talk about.
Yeah, the preliminary plat. Sorry.
We're just subdividing the property right now.
You're subdividing the property, and so we're just administering the code at this point, and they do meet the requirements of the subdivision ordinance.
Right. And yeah, they do have a right to put something there, so I guess.
So this step is just the natural step, and then the conversations that need to be had will have to happen at the PD step. Is that correct?
That is correct. So the site plan would happen at that point.
all right, I'll make a motion to approve the preliminary plat for the Sparkle and Shine, a 2-lot commercial subdivision located on the northwest corner of the intersection of Stardust Drive and Dixie Drive.
Second.
Motion by Brian, seconded by Danielle. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, the next item is, a request to approve a preliminary plat for a 58-lot residential subdivision called White Canyon Size located on the north side of White Dome Drive at approximately 1400 East and White Dome Drive in the Southern Hills development. Density is 3.14 dwelling units and acres. Zoning is R17. Applicant is Development Solutions Group. Representative is Ryan Thomas. Darn, I was going to show you that map. As you recall, this came through and got zoning approved with some open space through some of these areas. Oh, there you go. I did get it. So this is this parcel here. There's some open space here, open space there, and open space there that surround the property. And this is obviously the Nature Conservancy District who owns that property. So this is their proposed preliminary plat. They are proposing, so they'll have a drainage way that collects the water off of the White Dome, and they'll put that in the ownership of the HOA, all of this, plus this detention basin, plus that storm drain line that comes out of there. All that will be common area that they're creating for the HOA. This would also be common area to the HOA. You notice that they are grading into that open space area here and here to build these lots. Their proposal is to come back in and rock slope those faces to help prevent erosion and to provide a final surface both here and along that roadway there. They will be required to build the entire road right through here, as this is the open space area that's part of their whole development. So they'll build it through here. They do have future plans to develop here. Right now their proposal is just do the minimum 25 feet of asphalt through here and then have these developments finish it at a later date.
Wes, are we having good success with HOAs being good stewards of those kind of drainages and detention basins?
It's mixed. It's mixed. So yeah, I can't say yes and I can't say no. I mean, some do, some don't. But it's all private property coming onto them there, and so we would look to them to form an HOA. I'm not sure how else to deal with that, the drainage. Yeah.
I would just add that anytime you have an HOA that only has kind of hidden amenities, it's very hard to get them to stay active and taking care of it and paying the money that it takes to take care of it. Now, in this case, there might be enough cause from drainage that could cause damage that maybe they would maintain it for the protection of their properties.
Right.
But in general, they don't tend to work very well for that type of amenity. And they probably will let it go until something happens, and then they have to go in and fix it at that point or maintain it so they don't have future flooding.
So is there anything you can do about that, or is just nothing you can do, just kind of in the hands of the HOA? And
There really isn't anything you can do.
We've discussed an inspection program that.
Yeah, and that's a good point, and we can put that as part of, because they will be required to do a long-term stormwater maintenance agreement, which is now what every development requires, and that's a good point. We could treat it similar to, like Summit Estates, the one over there on Webb Hill, and we have another one at the Ledges that we're dealing with, the same kind of condition there, and so probably what we could do is do a long-term stormwater maintenance agreement with an agreement that attaches to it that shows HOA, you are responsible, you have to do this every year, and we'll work with Paula to get that, similar to what we're going to do with Summit Estates and the Ledges. That's a good comment.
We do have an agreement that we use now for that. We would have to look at the inspection requirement. Right now, most properties are allowed to do their own inspections, and then they just have to report to us that they've completed those inspections, and we have it set up so they can go online and complete those forms and be able to follow up with that. We may want to look at having an employee, some staff member, go out and check it maybe every other year or something, just to make sure that they're actually being done. But they do have to actively sign and state that they have inspected and that everything is being maintained to the standard it was approved as.
Right, and they do have certified stormwater inspectors now, and maybe that's what we have do that. I think the city goes out every 3 years.
I think,
3 or 5, something like that. And so maybe that's part of the agreement, that you have a certified stormwater inspector inspect these areas every year on a yearly basis, not just some random person, so that it's meeting some kind of criteria. That's probably a good idea.
That probably would help.
Yeah, I like that.
We probably should have found out who wasn't keeping up on them last night, right?
A storm like that exposes a lot of weaknesses in your storm drain system. It's crazy.
Council, if there's no more questions for Wes, I'm ready for a motion.
Make a motion to approve the preliminary plat. Am I on the right one? Yes.
Number 13.
And I would condition it on that we do an agreement with them that's a maintenance agreement where they get a certified inspector on a yearly basis and that kind of thing, as far as for the HOA. Is that okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Say that again.
Don't take a shot at it, Brian.
So moved.
There you go. There you go.
Motion to approve a preliminary plat for White Canyon, a 58-lot residential subdivision located on the north side of White Dome Drive at approximately 1400 East and White Dome Drive, with the condition that a maintenance agreement be developed, I guess, by the HOA.
Between the HOA and the city, that will be maintained on a yearly basis by a certified stormwater inspector. Or anything you want to add?
Ditto, right?
Yeah, what he said.
And we actually we can use our agreement
Yeah.
and just add the certified inspector.
Yeah, I forgot about that. It was a great idea.
Second.
Motion by Vardell, seconded by Brian. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, the last item is a request to approve a preliminary plat for a 34-lot residential subdivision called White Hills. The site is located on the south side of White Dome Drive at approximately 1400 east, again within the Southern Hills development. The density is 3.67 dwelling units an acre. Zone is R17. General plan is MDR. Applicant is Development Solutions Group. So this one's all down here on the south side of White Dome Drive, right here against the Southern Parkway. You'll see right there, there's your zoning, R17. So they do have a gap here between their property line and their proposed property line. They will dedicate that to the city. Again, it's an extension for the city to put an irrigation line in here. And they're also taking some of their storm drainage that goes this way right now, intercepting it in the roads and running it back here. So they'll dedicate that to the city. This area right here is included in a power easement right now as the overhead transmission lines for Dixie Power come to right there and they go across, so they're leaving that as open space. The proposal is to put this open space in their commercial HOA, which is right here, because this will sit up above the commercial, and they felt like this open space, except for this piece right here, but they want to include it anyway. This really should go to that HOA because they will see it. It'll be part of their overall development of their commercial property. So they want to include that in a commercial HOA right there. Other than that, and again, they have some areas right here, and they'll have some disturbed areas here when they grade out the lots. And again, their proposal to mitigate that disturbance in the open space is just to put a rock facing on it to keep the erosion down and the weeds from growing. Again, that's their proposal.
Remind me again who the applicant is on this.
This is Development Solutions Group, Quality Development.
Wes, these that are going against the Southern Parkway, are they including the SR7 Trails Master Plan? In their
that's a good
preliminary
question. I don't know
plans?
that. I'll have to follow up on that.
Because I'm pretty sure it comes along, it goes across the freeway at some point, and I think it's west of here, and then is on that north side. So I'm pretty sure.
So is it within the right of way of the Southern Parkway, or is it? I get mixed up, and I've heard both things.
I think it.
Or is it outside of the right of way?
I honestly can't. I think it kind of goes in and out. It seems like UDOT's right of way was a little narrow through there. So.
Okay. We'll have to check that then to make sure that it is. So that would be a condition on the plat that we verify where that's located and it be accounted for.
Okay.
Thank you.
Ready for a motion?
I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve the preliminary plat for White Hills subdivision on the south side of White Dome. Do we need conditions?
Just a condition to verify the location of that UDOT
Correct.
trail that goes
Yes.
through there and to account for it.
As explained by Wes.
Motion by Jimmy, seconded by Vardell. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Is Dee doing this next one?
Hello, Mayor and Council. Number 15 is to consider the approval of an ordinance to amend and adopt fees for various services and recreational activities. And as you'll recall, as part of the budget, we bring a fee schedule to you with all the new fees that we'd like to propose for the new fiscal year. We did that on June 17th, and there were a few items that we've realized that we missed off adding to that fee schedule. So this is kind of a housekeeping item. These fees were incorporated into the budget. We were just doing some cross-referencing and realized that we had omitted the fees. The first one, and you've got 33 pages in front of you, so I'm just going to hit the items in red. The first one is for softball softball leagues. And basically, it's to add the non-resident fee, as we had discussed, separating resident and non-resident fees. And each of those fees for one pitch, regular league double header, and single header, basically we're increasing the non-resident fee $50 above what the resident fee is in those three areas. And then field rentals for multi-use fields, we had left off giving the ability to rent it in a 4-hour block, and we were already doing that anyway, but it was not on the fee schedule. So right now it shows rentals for a day, but we can rent the fields for $275 for a 4-hour block rather than a day. So that was one of the others. And same with baseball or softball. Right now it's a per field per day, but we're giving the additional ability to rent those fields at $175 for a 4-hour block. And then the other one where you've got a couple of pages that are showing in red all the changes, and that's just the water rate services for some of our water schedules that don't fit the typical mold for your water rate, and that would be like a qualified PUD, some secondary irrigation and so forth, that we're already charging those fees, but they just didn't get onto the master list. And fortunately, Trevor caught that for us. So we're just asking for your approval tonight to amend the fee schedule and make things right.
Thanks, Dee.
I do have a question, just
of course it's on softball.
Of course it is. So the non-resident fee, are these primarily for like tournaments or?
Some of those are leagues, are league fees. So the one pitch league and the regular double header league and the single header league, those are non-resident fees for the league. So
my question is, because I played in all of those leagues, and we usually have one person on the team that goes and registers the team, but I know I got guys on my team from Mesquite and from other places, so how is that ever figured into the calculations?
I would think that would be if you were from outside of the St. George, if that one person was not from St. George area, Hurricane, Washington.
So we're going to send the St. George guy in every time to register the team.
If you're smart.
My understanding, and we would need clarification from Shane and his crew, is that the way that Washington City does it, they have a resident and a non-resident fee, and they actually look at the team roster information and then they charge accordingly. So I know that's a vague answer.
Well, in practical application, it doesn't work because those rosters are usually filled out the night of the first game after the team's already registered.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm okay with it. I don't have a problem with it. I'm just thinking it's very complicated to assume that everybody on that team's a resident or a non-resident. It would make more sense if it was a tournament and it was teams coming into a market from out of. So I was just curious how that was figured out.
Okay.
Quit bringing in the ringers. That's what you're doing on Bardell.
Right. I can ask more information and get a follow-up for you.
I don't know that it's that important. I would just it just caused me to wonder how a resident versus non-resident. I mean, I get it if they're green fees or whatever, but for an entire team, I wasn't quite sure how that worked.
I talked to Shane about it once, and I think it really came about, it's kind of an on your honor thing. And then it came about because there were complaints, right, from certain groups saying, well, we didn't get our space or time, and these non-residents did. And so it was kind of just an opportunity to say, and people saying, you know, we pay taxes here, but we don't get the benefit when it comes to things like softball. And so I think that's why it came about. Whether or not in practical application it's really, you know, the fee will really be charged, or maybe it only comes into question if somebody brings it up.
Well, I can see if you're reserving a field to practice, but for an entire league, I'm just not sure how that is ever determined.
Yeah, I can see your point.
Ready for a motion?
I'll make a motion that we adopt the additional fees for services for recreational activities.
Second.
Motion by Vardell, seconded by Danielle. All in favor, starting with Vardell.
Aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you.
All right. Item number 16, the council needs to appoint election workers for the primary election to be held on August 10th. State law does require that election workers be appointed by the council at least 15 days prior. Staff recommends approval.
Easy peasy, since there's not very many of them.
I have reviewed the list, and I make a motion we appoint the election workers for the primary election to be held on August 10th. Do we need to say the names?
No.
So the list that has been provided, I make a motion that we approve them for the August 10th.
Second.
Motion by Greg, seconded by Danielle. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. I don't have any appointments to boards or commissions, but I did fail to mention, I was going to say when we first started, but it kind of got confusing because we started with a work meeting. Since we haven't met for a couple weeks, I failed to mention the passing of Commissioner Dean Cox, and we worked close with Dean for many years, and he was extremely knowledgeable in everything in this county, had a wealth of knowledge, and our hearts go out to Lorene and his family, and I know his viewing is tomorrow night from 4 to 8 at the Dixie Center, and then his funeral is on Saturday at 10 a.m. at the Cox Auditorium. So, and I wanted to make sure we mention that and send our condolences to the Cox family. Reports. Danielle, anything?
Yeah, Mayor, I've been able to go to a few meetings for Ironman preparation, and I just wanted to share how excited I am for this event. I mean, we'll never get the Olympics here. This is probably as close as we'll get to something that's really like highlights how great St. George is for the entire world to see. They do some very cool stuff. Like on the Wednesday before the races, if you all are unaware, I'll just share the women's race is on Friday, September 17th. The men's race is on Saturday, September 18th. Wednesday before that whole week there will be stuff, and we've been having meetings with like the downtown merchants so that everybody's on board and everybody understands, there will be streets shut down. It will kind of be a big pedestrian area for a week. And there's a parade of nations, which is going to be so amazing on that Wednesday, where every flag is represented and there's people. It'll be interesting to see with COVID, they said maybe it won't be the biggest parade of nations ever just because there's still some countries that their borders are closed because of the pandemic, but it's going to be a really fantastic event, and I think that we as ambassadors should be sharing with everyone that we talk to that we need volunteers. We want everybody to feel like they're part of it and not feel frustrated by it. There are going to be inconveniences. We have the rodeo that weekend, which in my opinion is going to be really neat because I think then we get to highlight for the world, like that's one of the cool things that we do. And I think it will be really neat for people to come and be able to take part in that. But it'll also be a frustration for people because they're going to have to walk a little further than they're used to. You're probably going to have to park on some of the surface streets and walk in. So I think just helping people to feel excited about it and to know what an opportunity it is to showcase St. George. We have, a great opportunity, and our city obviously shows really well. It looks really cool on ESPN because our city is so pretty. That's all I've got, Mayor.
Thanks. Jimmy?
Most of my board meetings have been canceled, but besides Switch Point, which is going swimmingly, right? Really well, and lots of exciting things, working on Studio 6, some different things there, so good stuff. More to come.
Perfect. Brian?
Those that haven't been over to see, we've completed our golf course, or golf clubhouse at Southgate. Now we're jumping ahead and trying to get St. George going. But it is an amazing
The
place.
clubhouse at St. George Lake?
St. George Lake, yes. Yeah, I was getting to that.
Is that the new name? That's the new name
It
as
was
of last
underwater
night.
pretty good this morning, so. But the clubhouse is beautiful. I think our amenities are up and running now. Am I right, Mark? So go have lunch or dinner there, breakfast. I think they're moving ahead very well. I haven't eaten there yet, but I'm going to get a chance to go play golf and have some lunch.
Shocking.
Right. I haven't been there yet. But the golf courses were doing very well. I think the water kind of hurt the golf course yesterday, but I think in the long run it'll help out. So it's good to have water. Other than that, I think that's all I got.
Greg?
Since it's been a few weeks since we met, a couple weeks, in the last 2 weeks we've had just in my day job, economic development, we've had 2 Fortune 500 companies come to St. George, very large companies that are considering us, touring our community, and they absolutely love it. Economic development-wise, I think we're doing really well. We're on the map. Just wanted to make that report. So.
Thanks.
Awesome.
Cool.
So Councilmember Smethurst and I had a chance to meet with Shane Moore and Cody and some of the other leisure services folks to talk about softball and the canyons and just some opportunities there to, I think, do a better job. And it was a very productive meeting. I felt like staff were very responsive to the comments that we shared with them. So looking forward to good things, even better things out there. And then I would just, as a commentary, just after last night's weather event and how responsive Adam and the staff was today, when I reached out to him about some of the comments that I was receiving, especially from my neighbors in Bloomington Hills, I think we did ourselves proud today by how quickly we responded. So thank you for that.
Yeah, our staff is absolutely amazing. I was texting Cameron last night some streets that were major problems, and he's like on it already, sending the crews that way, and it was awesome. I want to mention just a couple of things real quick. On July 24th, finally, the St. George Historical, okay, help me. Danielle, help me. St. George, no.
The Historical Sculpture Garden.
St. George Historical Sculpture Garden. They will be unveiling the Daniel D. MacArthur sculpture.
Don't miss it, Greg.
Don't miss it, Greg. And the William Carter sculpture. And they've waited a long time, and these families that had these sculptures commissioned, they were really patient with us in trying to get them all in one area. And once they found out about the Gold Star Memorial, I think it excited them to know that all those historical statues will be there by the gazebo, and the school district's been awesome to let us kind of take over, and we're even going to be doing the landscaping there, so it'll look amazing. So that will happen on July 24th. And then just keep on your calendar looking out a ways, September 11th, National Day of Service. And Mark has been working with the LDS Church and the Interfaith Council. They are hoping that we're going to do a litter cleanup from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. that day. And what a better way to get out and do service and mingle with neighbors and friends and strangers than the 20th anniversary of September 11th. And they're hoping, I had a luncheon at the the Temple Visitor Center on Monday or Tuesday. I lose track of time. But there was a big group there, and they even brought this up about getting our city all spiffed up. They're hoping to have over 10,000 volunteers. They're going to advertise it, the heck out of it on radio and print and everywhere. And many hands make light work, and get out there and get the entire county cleaned up a week before the Ironman. So there'll be a lot more to come on that. Mark's working closely with them. And then that day also at Town Square, we will be having our September 11th, our own kind of memorial. And David, is that at 10 a.m.? Or do we know for sure?
It's 10 a.m.
10 a.m.
9:30, it'll kind of kick off with the actual ceremonies at 10.
So even if you're grubby and sweaty from helping pick up trash, then come to Town Square and celebrate that. But keep that on your calendar, because I think this has the possibility of being the biggest service project ever. So it will be amazing. And we're no need for a closed session, right?
Mayor, do we
One
have a
more
time
thing.
on the 24th for that unveiling, the sculpture garden unveiling?
Yes.
While you're looking that up, Mark, while we're talking about that, out on River Road, past Family Dollar, out in Fort Pierce.
10 a.m.
Somebody's already done some cleanup out there a week ago, and I've seen the bags out there because I would drive that. We need to have somebody go out there and pick that stuff up because it was getting scattered back out from that storm last night, but it's been there about a week, so let's get somebody out there to pick that up while it's still in a pile.
And July 24th, it's at 10 a.m. And you are all invited to attend if you would like. They're mostly just inviting the families of those individuals, but they asked that I invite you all. So.
And it's Town Square, right?
Town Square at the gazebo between the school district office and the Woodward.
And we'll get a reminder.
Yes, I'll send you a reminder.
And also a reminder that next Thursday, we do not have a meeting scheduled.
I don't know. I can't remember.
That's what was on our calendar today, right?
Was that
Christina?
on our calendar?
Yeah, no meeting.
Okay. I know. What are you going to do? All these Thursdays freed up. Okay, we have no closed session, so I'm ready for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
That was very intense. Second. Motion by Vardell, seconded by Danielle. All in favor? Aye. And I think no one's opposed. Okay. Thank you.